welcome. This is Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me, busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail.
I want to welcome you to the show. I want to introduce you to somebody so you're going to hear a lot about Bethel Wagner. But the first thing I want to say is this is a conversation that is so needed. Today's episode is just one of several we're going to be doing together, and it's From Crisis to Resilience with Quantum Biofeedback. This is about the science and centering of vibrational healing. And this is so important because I'm like a broken record these days. I keep reminding all of us that back in the day, like thousands of years ago, this is what people did. Why do we know that? Because as a species, we're still here. And it's just one of several things that happens. Now, fast forward to today and the technology and the science now that brings all of this together just simply accelerates and accentuates it. Beth is passionate about this, but more than that, like many of us, you start with the struggle and you turn that into a strength. And this is what this is about. You know, she understands and has worked in multiple areas to help you know. She's a nutritional health coach, biofeedback specialist, trauma-informed breath work facilitator, bow and work practitioner, and the founder of Sage Wellness Center. And I want to say it again, go to sagewellness.center, Facebook, Sage Wellness Center, MT. A lot of things you're going to find today. Bethel, it's great to have you here. Let's just kick this thing off, right? I mean, this is something that I am like a little broken record these days, because when people ask me about my own journey, I said, I didn't do anything new. I just did a whole bunch of modalities that were done a long time ago because we understood vibrational healing. So let's start with the issue. Are we in crisis mode?
I think at least a lot of people are. There are definitely some big meta patterns going on in the world that would probably indicate, yes, maybe not everybody, but on a large scale, I think there is a lot of crisis, chaos, energy kind of in the field right now.
Oh my gosh, I know. I'm not going to even talk about this because I don't like to talk about things that go on at the national level. But I got a call this morning. I don't mean to laugh. I'm sorry. But it is kind of comical because my friend was comical. And, you know, she was talking about something with her parents, about her parents. And I was just listening carefully, but I was kind of smiling because I just said to her, parents, everybody's going to grow old. And so now you have a new level of awareness of how to help other people in the world. And the reason I said this to this person is because didn't have a clue about any of it. No disease, no illness, nothing really on the radar. But now we've got to look at what's going on with chronic disease. And this is what she asked me about. She said, what did she say? How did you cure your disease? I said, there aren't enough weeks in the year for me to explain that process. But help us today on why so many people have health crisis in their face. I'm not kidding. It's every time I turn around, there's something. What's going on?
Well, I think there's kind of one overarching thing that kind of has maybe two branches to it. I would say one of the biggest reasons people are dealing with these kind of major health issues and crises is largely an issue of disconnection, which might sound kind of odd, but I think there's a major disconnection on two major levels. One is that people are highly disconnected from their physical body. There are so many people walking around who are just really not present in and connected to their bodies. And part of that is just cultural. We are trained to think that science is everything and the intellect is everything. So we're encouraged to just spend a lot of time in our heads, and we disconnect from the body on so many different levels. And then people don't learn how to listen to their body or understand what their body is communicating. So they miss all the signals along the way that are saying, hey, wake up, maybe you need to help me out here. And then they don't know anything until suddenly they're hit with this diagnosis of cancer or diabetes or, fill in the blank. There's a million different things that could fill in that blank. So that's one area that people are highly disconnected, is from their bodies. The other way that people, I believe, are highly disconnected is spiritually. And to me, this is almost even more of an issue than the physical body disconnection, simply because I believe that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. And so if we lose that connection on the spiritual level, it's like we're missing half of ourselves, basically. And that's not really a recipe for health. Yeah. And I believe when people get spiritually disconnected, if they don't have any way to anchor into the divine, a way to anchor into infinite love and safety and a sense of peace, then they get to a point where they're just living in chronic fear. They are living in that crisis kind of energy because everything becomes fear-based. And that fear-based energy has huge downstream consequences for health on every level.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about this because this is not just something you and I are chit-chatting about, the statistics, the numbers, the research. And, if this were a longer show, we can go into that level of detail, but we don't really have to, because really what we're talking about today is how do we adjust for the current approach to health? Now, I know for me that along the way, while I really valued the direction of conventional medicine that's out there, it alone wasn't going to save my life. And that was becoming very clear to me. But here we are in the world. How do we change this? How do we really look at this from a different lens, so to speak? What do each of us have to do that?
Right. So it again goes back to that connection piece. We have to figure out how can we help people connect to their body? How can we teach people the language of their body? How can they learn to understand that and communicate with their own body? And then how can we help people develop practices and tools to find that spiritual connection and that connection to love that will in turn inform their beliefs and their thought patterns, and then their whole energy field and on down the line to change their health.
Well, let's talk about this. I get asked this question all the time. Pat, do you really think people can reverse autoimmune, cancer? Do you really think that? Heart disease, diabetes? And I'm not a practitioner. I don't have your credentials. So my answer is, I only know what happened for me. But let me ask you that question. Is it possible to do that? And then what are the principles we need to understand? I understand there are several principles for healing, but we need to understand them as well, right? Because we're talking about what we hear, the commercials, all of that we're bombarded with. But then over here, we're hearing the stories of how my friend reduced a tennis ball brain tumor to nothing. So take us on that journey, if you will, about that.
Sure. So first of all, to answer the first part of that question, yes, I believe it's possible. There is a ton of evidence that it is possible to reverse cancer. It's possible to reverse diabetes. It's possible to reverse heart disease. And there's more and more and more evidence over the years. A really great book on the subject is Mind Over Medicine by Lissa Rankin. And her whole book is about, she was curious about this. She had this idea that there were certain diseases that were not curable, but then she started seeing evidence that they in fact could be cured and they could be reversed. And so she went on this journey to figure out why and how. So the short answer is yes. I believe all things are possible. It doesn't mean it will happen every time, but it's possible. It's within the realm of possibility. So then as far as like the principles involved in that journey, I kind of break it down into 4 categories. There are all sorts of different ways people think of this and break it down, and, you know, different ways to think of it. But for myself, I break it into 4. Originally, I kind of had 3, and then I recently have decided I kind of need to add a 4th piece in there. So the first piece for me is just kind of a phase of preparation. Because I feel like sometimes people maybe need to have enough energy in their system. They need to be mentally prepared, emotionally prepared for the journey. And if you dive in too quickly with somebody and, for instance, try to detoxify them too quickly before they're prepared, before they have what they need, it can be another little crisis. It might be a healing crisis. So we need to get people prepared and kind of built up for the journey they're about to take. And then from there is a definite process of clearing or cleansing that can be on every level: physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. All of those need to be addressed. We need to open up the pathways of elimination, so to speak, so that they are able to clear whatever toxins, whatever pathogens, whatever is affecting the system can gracefully exit.
Yeah.
And then from there, we need to probably do some rebalancing. For me, this has a lot to do with the nervous system, because there is what is referred to as the psychoneuroimmuno pathway. So that again goes back to whatever is going on mentally, emotionally affects the nervous system, and then the nervous system affects the immune system. It can go either way. It can put it on hyperdrive, which puts us into autoimmune diseases, or it can suppress it to where someone just doesn't have the resources to fight something off. So we definitely need to do rebalancing. And again, in all of those 4 areas, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, we need to work on finding balance. And then the last piece I focus on is what I would just refer to as rebuilding. So once we've kind of cleared things out and we've worked on some balancing, what can we do to really intentionally cultivate optimal health? What can we do to kind of refine and optimize?
Yeah. You know, before we continue, I want to make sure folks know how to get a hold of you. Why don't you make sure, let's give out your website, because people can schedule time with you and really get some help hands-on. So what's the best way for people to contact you, Bethel?
Right. My website is easy. It's just sagewellness.center. And if you go to the website, you can just book a free initial consultation, or you can go to the services page and see everything that's available. So very simple.
So had we had this conversation in 2003, when I first started this, I'd have probably gotten all glazed over. But in 2004, April 1st to be exact, I came down with a mystery disease. And everything I thought I knew about all y'all just said right there, I realized I knew nothing. And you know what you and I are attempting to do here is to have people know that they don't need to go down the pathway I went down to try to figure it out. You're here to help them, and you figured it out already. And what I mean by that is there's so much we know that works. Now, I am a living, breathing testimony for what it means to really explore some of the things we're talking about today and talk about other shows. Why is that significant? Because nothing else actually worked. In my case, nothing else actually worked. But let's talk about the mechanics of this, because part of my success, I do believe, was how open and positive I was. And I went to Dr. Darvish, so she's like the queen of, like, I don't know, naturopathic positivity or something. She's got to get an award for that. But I did enter this realm curious, optimistic, hopeful, and determined. I never talked about what was going on with me for the 10 years I was on air. But people could see it. They could see parts of my body start to get to deform. They could see me gaining weight, but I would never talk about it in that way, in the way that here I am, because for me, I didn't want to see myself as that. I didn't want to see myself as having no solution to my well-being. And every day, through the ways you're talking about and the ways we're going to talk about them now, I got better. I got better. Yeah. And I'm not, I had so much pain in my body, Bethel, I couldn't open a doorknob. So let's talk about the subconscious and the superconscious part of this, but the quantum field of this. Because I think if I'd have entered that arena differently, I don't know that I would have gotten well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So walk us through the energy of that, but also what we're talking about when we're talking about biofeedback for people that do not know.
Right. So, do we want to start with the quantum energy part or the biofeedback?
I'm like into the quantum energy first.
Okay.
And then we could talk about why that's important in the whole biofeedback realm, right?
Perfect. Yeah. So the quantum field can sound really heady and hard to understand. And in some ways it probably is. It's quantum physics. I don't pretend to understand all of the actual science, but I understand the principles. If you were to ask me, like, what is the quantum field? I feel like a really simple answer is that the quantum field is the infinite field of energy and information that is basically the fabric of the universe that unifies everything. And so we talk about the quantum indeterminacy field, which just means that anything is possible. Everything is available as a possibility in the quantum field. And what makes something a reality basically is conscious awareness. It's when someone taps into that and brings their conscious awareness to that thing that it goes from a possibility into a reality. So this actually has everything to do with healing and everything to do with our mindset and our beliefs and everything to do with the field of quantum biofeedback.
But part of that really is, do I dare say the science word? Because I think it's really important to really say it. For so long, we've treated science, spirituality, physical healing, subconscious, conscious, as if they're all like separate planets, right? We just like give them all. But the reality is, when you go back and you look at healing modalities and what people did, every aspect of different civilizations, right? They integrated them all. And so I didn't understand why people get so upset when we call it integrated medicine. I don't know what it's called now. But the bottom line is that if you're talking about a quantum field, it is ultra sensitive to individual things and individual energies. But what I think quantum energy loves is the harmony and the chaos together. And I think that's what we're talking about. You're entering something that feels extremely chaotic. I don't know about you, but anytime anybody says you've got ... fill in the blank, you're like, whoa.
Right.
But let's talk about this movement now to understand biofeedback and energy medicine, right?
Right. Yeah. So it's a huge movement now. I think it's the future of medicine is going to be energy medicine. And there's great pioneers like Bruce Lipton, the biology of belief, and that's really what that work is about. And one of his big things he talks about is your beliefs are your biology. And that has everything to do, again, with the quantum field and the energy field and how it affects our bodies, and how it ties into biofeedback. Biofeedback is actually very simple. It just bio meaning life, and feedback is just a feedback loop. So on a very basic level, we're doing biofeedback with ourselves every single day. Your stomach growls and you go, oh, I'm hungry, and I'll go eat something. That's a biofeedback loop, right? Or you get tired and realize you're tired and you go take a nap or go to bed. That's a biofeedback loop. Kind of the next level up would be something like kinesiology or muscle testing. We're tapping into that subconscious mind and into the energy field to see what is true or false for that particular person's body, or for their energy field. So that's another simple way of engaging in biofeedback. And then when we come to quantum biofeedback, like the system I use, we're adding in a modern technology, which is just another way to interface with the person's energy field, with their body, with their subconscious mind, with the superconscious. And it's just a more in-depth way of doing that, and gives us a broader range of things that we can see and work with than we might be able to just doing simple muscle testing. But it's really all the same principles.
Yeah, and I want to talk about this because the principles we're talking about have a methodology, and I want to be very clear about this. This is why I keep telling people to contact you, because so often we think we can do things ourselves. This was not something I could do, and I don't recommend it. I recommend to all of you, give Bethel a call or go to our website, find things out, because the bottom line with all of this is it requires a process and an understanding by somebody like Bethel. And here's what I mean. Okay, here's me. You ready? Okay, go through my treatment, biofeedback, whether it was the on-demand machine. I'm just like, I want to do it all, right? You know that feeling? I'm going to do it all. So when you put me on the machine, she says, do 5 minutes. I want to do 30. So what's the result of that? The result is your body is breaking things down. And then I get what's called a Hertz reaction, which, look, you've got to work with somebody that knows how to move this energy along, right? Especially if you're doing things to get rid of things in your body. Isn't that critical and key?
Absolutely.
You can't do this alone. I'm sorry. I've tried.
Right. There's definitely an art to it.
Yeah.
My dad had similar experiences. He was very sick, and someone put him on a machine to help clear things, but his body wasn't ready. His pathways of elimination were open, and without fail, he'd do a session. Next day, it would be total meltdown, bad news. So it's, yes, extremely important to understand those pathways, understand the order things need to go in.
Yeah.
And really just honor what the body is able to handle in any given moment instead of pushing too hard too soon.
Yeah. You know what I love about the time we live in, right? I don't know if I'll be on this planet when we finally get to it, but here's what I love. I love how, I don't even want to call them Hollywood. I love how, I think it's Disney and the whole Marvel universe, right?
Oh, right.
Has put this kind of dialogue on the map in a very interesting way. Now, for many people, they haven't made the connection. You see, they haven't made the connection to when they talk about the quantum field or they talk about these phenomenal things they're doing. See, the point is, those things are available to each of us. We have things inside of us. And I think what you're laying out for people in this episode, Bethel, is there's a process. There are things you should know. And yet we're not asking people to memorize them. We're asking them to give you a call and work with you, or do something to know that you're on a path. Look, we've talked about a lot today, but I want to talk about a couple of other things. Is biofeedback can shift a lot of things. For me, mental, attitude.
Absolutely.
Right? So I want to ask you this question as you move forward. You're going to talk with us more about the people you've helped in this situation. Thank you for this introductory show, because it's more important than we think. I want to ask you what you're most excited about when you think about the future of the work you've said yes to, and what's your closing message?
I think I am most excited. Gosh, that's such a big question.
I know, right?
I'm excited about lots of things. I think I am just excited about the possibility that people can find true healing, as in they're not just putting band-aids on things all the time, suppressing symptoms. Like they can actually reverse serious issues and find true health and be whole. And I think the other half of that is I'm excited about the fact that I think we're finding ways to do it with more grace, with more ease. We're finding ways to do it without inducing so many Herxheimer's reactions and healing crises. Not that never happen, but I think we're starting to learn how to do things without running into as many of those issues, and finding ways to just kind of compress time and speed up the healing process.
Yeah.
Not that you can ever put an exact timeline on it. It can still take a long time, but I think we're finding ways to just do it faster, better, more easily than we have in the past.
Yeah. And I want to just make this statement. I didn't get the way I was overnight. I had stage 4, what they call stage 4 chronic Lyme, which you don't live through that. I mean, I'm here because moved to Seattle. So this is a process. It does take a bit, but you start to feel better. You really start to feel better. What's your personal message? And thank you for today. I can't wait till we do the next show. What do you want to leave us with today, Bethel?
I think I want to just leave people with a sense of hope that if you are in that sense of constant crisis with your health or just chaos in life in general, it doesn't have to stay that way. There are very real things that we can do, real tools you can learn to use on your own, along with practitioners that can shift your body out of constant crisis mode into a state where your body can tap into its own innate healing abilities, and you can move towards a healthy, happy, vibrant life.
Yeah. I want to thank you for today. And to my friends that are listening to this show after our conversation Saturday, I wanted to say to all of you, your observation of my hands was very important. You saw hands that pretty much look like they've been through the ringer. And you asked me one question in a sport where my hands show a lot. You said to me, "Do you feel all right?" And what I said to you was, what you're seeing is just residual of a disease that I beat, that no one thought I could beat. And I want to say that to all of you out there. Change your mind immediately, get a hold of Bethel, ask questions, and point to the hope within you. We'll see you next time.